Hello and welcome back to the deep dive.
Hello, everyone.
Today we are shifting gears a little bit. Usually we're wading through these thick stacks of research papers on, artificial intelligence or trying to make sense of complex geopolitical shifts.
Right, the heavy stuff.
Exactly. But today I want to talk about something that is arguably more difficult to master and certainly more immediate to all of our daily lives. We are going back to the absolute
It
basics.
sounds a little counterintuitive, doesn't it? I mean, we usually prize complexity here.
We do. But the source material we're looking at today, this daily routine trilogy from the Mr. English channel, it's deceptive.
In what way?
Well, on the surface, it just looks like a simple story about two people, Emily and Paul, and they're just going through a 24-hour cycle. Waking up, brushing teeth, going to work, the usual.
The mundane stuff.
The mundane stuff. But when you actually stop and look at the language that's required to describe those moments, you realize it's essentially the operating system of human existence.
That is a perfect way to frame it. The operating system. I love that.
Right.
Because if you're learning English, or even if you're just trying to be more, articulate about your own life, the vocabulary of the daily routine is the foundation.
Yeah.
It's everything.
It is.
If you can't describe how you feel when that alarm goes off, or the specific sensation of the afternoon slump, you're missing a huge chunk of communicative power.
Exactly. So our mission today is not just to retell the story of Paul and Emily. We're going to perform a sort of linguistic autopsy on their day.
A linguistic autopsy, okay.
We want to extract the idioms, the phrasal verbs, the cultural habits that define them, and we're going to do this specifically with our English learner audience in mind.
Good.
So we're going to keep the pace steady, we're going to unpack any difficult terms, and we're going to make sure that by the end of this, you have the tools to describe your own day with a lot more precision.
And we have two perfect specimens to analyze for this. We have Paul and we have Emily.
Let's talk about them briefly before we, start the clock on their day. Looking at the source text, they feel like archetypes to me. They're almost like the two voices inside my own head.
Yeah, that's so true. I think that's true for a lot of us. On one side, you have Paul.
Right, Mr. Structured.
Totally. Paul is the embodiment of structure. He is the type A personality. He's the guy who has optimized his life for efficiency. He loves mornings. He loves lists. He probably loves spreadsheets.
No, for sure.
He represents that ideal that so many productivity gurus are trying to sell us.
And then there's Emily. And Emily, she's the reality.
Dude.
She's a bit chaotic. She negotiates with her alarm clock. She relies on these small comforts just to get through the day. She's relatable because she acknowledges the friction of daily life.
Precisely. And from a learning perspective, this contrast is gold. It's just perfect.
How so?
Well, if we only looked at Paul, you'd learn the vocabulary of discipline and energy, which is great, but you'd miss the vocabulary of struggle, of tiredness, of seeking comfort.
That's a great point.
By looking at both, we get the full spectrum of the human experience, all in English.
So let's get into it. We're starting at the very beginning. The sun is barely up. This is the morning magic segment, running from 6:00 a.m. to 9:000 a.m. And it begins with the most universal sound in the modern world.
The alarm clock.
Oh, yes. Let's look at the language used here for Paul. The text says his alarm goes off at 6:00 a.m. sharp.
I want to pause right there on that phrasal verb. Go off.
Okay.
It's one of those linguistic quirks that can, drive learners crazy. Because usually, if something goes, it leaves. It goes away.
Right.
But here, go off means to start ringing or to start making a noise.
That is confusing when you think about it. A bomb goes off, meaning it explodes.
Right.
Milk goes off, meaning it spoils.
Yeah, it rots. And an alarm goes off, meaning it wakes you up.
Context is everything.
It really is. In this context, it signals the start of the intrusion of reality into your sleep.
And look at Paul's reaction. The text says, beep, 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 and he's just up. He says, I'm an early bird, so I don't feel tired. Early bird.
It's a classic idiom. We hear it all the time, but let's just unpack the cultural weight of it for a second.
Yeah, we should. It comes from the proverb, the early bird catches the worm.
Right.
And it implies that success is a function of timing. If you're first, you win. Culturally, at least in a lot of English-speaking countries, being an early bird is often associated with virtue, with discipline, with success.
It's seen as a good thing.
A very good thing. And Paul identifies with this label proudly. He doesn't just wake up. He claims the morning.
And his physical actions back that up completely. He opens the window immediately, breathes in the fresh air.
Think about the verbs there. Open, breathe. These are expansive actions. He's inviting the world in. He's oxygenating his system. It's a very active, energetic start. He isn't fighting the day. He's welcoming it.
Now, let's look at the counterexample. 7:00 a.m. A full hour later. Emily.
And the scene changes completely.
Totally. Her alarm goes off, and her very first sentence is a plea. She says, just 5 more minutes, please. Oh, I feel that in my soul. Just 5 more minutes.
It's the universal bargaining prayer of the non-morning person.
It is. And this identifies her as maybe a night owl, or definitely not an early bird.
Right.
She is fighting that transition from sleep to wakefulness.
Yeah.
And linguistically, this introduces a whole concept of the snooze button.
That's true. Even if the text doesn't use the word snooze, that behavior asking for 5 more minutes, that's what we call hitting snooze.
Exactly.
And the physical difference between them is striking, too. When she finally gets up, she walks all the way to the kitchen for water. But Paul, he stays in bed for 5 minutes just to stretch.
This is a subtle but really interesting distinction in how they, wake up their systems.
Yeah.
Emily uses an external aid water. She drinks a big glass, sometimes with lemon. She says it wakes up her body. She's hydrating the machine to get it running.
Pouring fuel in.
Yes. Whereas Paul uses his own mechanics. He stretches his arms and his legs. He calls it a small exercise.
So Paul generates energy from within.
Right. And Emily intakes energy from without. Both are completely valid, of course, but they describe very different relationships with the morning.
And for you listening, just note the vocabulary here. Stretch, hydrate, wake up. These are the fundamental verbs of the first 15 minutes of pretty much everyone's day.
For sure.
Okay, moving on to the next hour. 700 to 00, it's 8 a.m. We're out of bed. We are standing on 2 feet. Now we have to make ourselves presentable. This is the getting ready phase.
And this is where the personality differences really start to manifest in the environment. Let's look at the bathroom routine first.
Emily has a list, a very specific list. Brush teeth, wash face, brush hair. And she specifically mentions using cold water to wash her face.
And that adjective cold is doing a lot of work there. Why cold? Because she needs the shock. She's still waking herself up. It's a sensory jolt.
It is.
Paul, on the other hand, is just described as very fast. He doesn't linger. He treats the bathroom like a pit stop.
But then he hits a wall. And this actually surprised me about Paul. For a guy who seems so decisive, he gets stuck at the wardrobe.
Ah, yes. The wardrobe dilemma.
He stands there asking himself, blue shirt day or white shirt day?
This is a fascinating psychological moment. We call this decision fatigue.
Right.
Even though the choice is pretty trivial, blue or white, it still takes mental energy. And Paul is trying to balance 2 key concepts here, professional and comfortable.
Those are key adjectives for work clothes, aren't they? Professional implies you look competent, serious, respectful of the office rules.
Exactly.
And comfortable means you can actually sit in your chair for 8 hours without being in pain.
Exactly. And finding the intersection of those 2 things is the eternal struggle of the modern worker. Paul eventually decides, but he spends time on it.
Now, Emily's version of this is the blue or red problem. The text says she changes clothes 3 times.
3 times. That implies a high level of dissatisfaction or maybe anxiety about how she presents herself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She puts something on, looks in the mirror, and thinks, no, not this. Then she tries another. It's a very common experience, but describing it in English can be tricky. You might say, I couldn't make up my mind, or nothing looked right.
And Paul, being Paul, offers some advice in the dialogue. He tells her, that's why you need to wake up earlier.
Which is such a typical fix-it response, isn't it?
Totally.
He sees her emotional struggle with self-image, and he offers the logistical solution, just to add more time.
Yeah.
It's very, very consistent with his character.
Okay, we are dressed, hopefully. Now we move to 8:00 to 9:00 a.m., the power of breakfast.
Breakfast vocabulary is so essential because food is such a universal topic. But the way we prepare food says a lot about us.
For sure. Emily is team cold breakfast, a bowl of cereal, cold milk, and sliced bananas.
And look at the verbs there. Pour, which is implied with the milk and cereal.
Yeah.
And slice. To slice means to cut into thin, flat pieces.
Right.
It's a precise action, but it's very low effort. She isn't cooking, she is assembling.
That's a great way to put it. She's assembling breakfast. Now, contrast that with Paul. He is team warm breakfast. He cooks 2 eggs and toast.
Cooks. That single word implies heat, timing, pans. It's an active process. He's investing effort into his fuel for the day.
But the real cultural battle here isn't about the food, is it? It's about the drink.
Oh, absolutely. The beverage debate. Coffee versus tea.
And Paul uses a superlative here. He says coffee is the most important thing in the world.
The most important thing. That is a strong statement.
It really is.
It's hyperbole, obviously, but it highlights his reliance on it. He says it gives him energy. Again, Paul is all about output. He views his body as an engine that needs high-octane fuel.
And Emily calls herself a tea girl.
Tea girl, that's
Yeah.
the label of identity. She drinks green tea, and listen to her reasoning. She loves the calm and peace of it.
So Paul drinks for energy, Emily drinks for peace.
Exactly. One is an accelerant, the other is a stabilizer. It fits their morning vibes perfectly.
There is one detail about Paul's breakfast that I really like, though. It kind of softened his character for me. He mentions that while he drinks his coffee, he sits at the table and watches the birds in the garden for 15 minutes.
That is a beautiful mindfulness moment. He calls it his favorite 15 minutes of the day.
Favorite, we use that word all the time, but here it signals gratitude. He isn't checking his email yet, he isn't rushing, he's just observing.
And that's a fantastic tip for any learners listening. If you want to describe a hobby or a habit, don't just say, I watch birds. Say, it is my favorite part of the day. It adds so much emotional weight to the sentence.
It really does. Okay, so breakfast is done. The dishes are in the sink. The door is opening. We're leaving the sanctuary of the home and entering the world. This brings us to the midday hustle, 9:00 a.m. to 5:00 p.m.
The work day. But before we can work, we must commute.
Let's talk about that word commute. It sounds so formal.
It is a standard noun and a verb. You can say, my commute is terrible, or I commute by train. It refers specifically to that journey between your home and your work.
And in big cities, this is often the most stressful part of the day.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But not for Paul. Paul has the commute of champions.
He really does. The text says he grabs his keys, puts on his shoes, and just walks. It takes him 15 minutes.
Walking to work completely changes your relationship with your city. Paul mentions saying good morning to his neighbors.
Right.
That implies a sense of community. If you're in a car, you're sealed off. You're in a metal box. If you're walking, you're part of the neighborhood.
He also talks about nature again. He sees the seasons change. Green trees in summer, red in autumn.
That's a lovely observation. He's connected to the passage of time in a way you just aren't when you're underground on a subway.
So true. Now, Emily. Emily is living the reality for most urban dwellers. She walks to the bus stop and she waits for the number 42 bus.
Okay, I want to bring up a very specific grammar point here that trips up almost every single English learner.
Okay, let's hear it.
The prepositions of transport. The source says Emily is on the bus. She is not in the bus.
Why is that? I mean, she is inside the vehicle.
It is confusing, I get it. But the general rule in English is this. If the vehicle is large enough for you to stand up and walk around, like a bus, a train, a plane, or a ship, you are on it.
Ah, so you get on the bus. You're on the plane.
Exactly.
Okay, and if you can't stand up,
If you have to kind of crouch down and sit immediately, like in a car, a taxi, a truck, or even a helicopter, you are in it. You get in the car.
that is incredibly helpful. I've never heard it explained that way. So Emily is on the bus, and her experience is very different from Paul's walk.
It's very passive. She has to wait. And note the variable here. If there is a seat, her commute has this element of chance. If she gets a seat, she's productive. She listens to podcasts or English lessons.
Which is very meta, considering what we're doing right now.
Indeed it is. She's turning dead time into learning time. But the text also says, if the bus is full, she just looks out the window.
We call that zoning out, right? Just staring at the world passing by.
It's a coping mechanism, really, for being stuck in a crowded metal box.
It is. Okay, so they arrive at work. It's 9:30 a.m. They walk in. What is the universal first task of the modern office worker?
Turning on the computer and checking emails. The text notes there are always so many.
Always so many. That phrase just captures the feeling of inbox overload perfectly. It's a never-ending stream.
It really is.
But notice how they handle the workload. Paul goes straight to his calendar. He's looking for structure immediately. Meeting at 10:00, report at 11:00.
He's orienting himself. He needs to know the hard landscape of his day, the things he can't move. This lets him plan his energy around those fixed points.
Emily, however, emphasizes the people. She talks to her colleagues. She discusses projects. She says friendly coworkers make work easier.
She's prioritizing the social fabric of the office. For Emily, work is a collaborative effort. If the vibes are good, the work feels easier.
Whereas for Paul, work is a series of tasks to be executed. He mentions a specific block of time, 10:00 to 12:00. He says this is for working very hard.
In modern productivity speak, we'd call this deep work.
Yeah.
It's a period of distraction-free concentration. Paul blocks this time out. He knows that if he doesn't focus then, he won't get the big, important tasks done.
And then the clock hits 12:30 p.m., and the body sends a signal.
The stomach grumbles.
Grumbles. That is a great onomatopoeia.
It is. It perfectly mimics that low, vibrating sound of an empty stomach. It's a polite way of saying, I am starving.
So we have two different approaches to lunch here. The dining out approach versus the packed lunch.
Paul goes out. He goes to a small cafe. He eats soup and sandwiches, and he meets friends.
So this is a social break for him. He's physically leaving the office environment.
Which is very healthy mentally. It provides what we call a change of scene. But as Emily points out in the text, it has a downside.
It's expensive.
It's expensive.
Emily brings a lunchbox, a salad with chicken and tomatoes. She calls this smart because it saves money and it's healthy.
We often call this brown bagging it in American English, referring to the old paper bags people used to bring their lunch in.
Oh, right.
Emily values the economy of it and the
Yeah.
control over her own nutrition.
But look at what they do after the food is gone. Paul walks for 10 minutes to clear his head.
That is a fantastic idiom, to clear your head. It means to reset your mental state, to push away the stress and confusion of the morning so you can face the afternoon with a fresh mind.
Emily stays in the office kitchen. She drinks water and she chats with her friend Sarah about their weekend plans.
And there it is again. She recharges through connection. Paul recharges through solitude and movement. It's a very consistent theme with them.
It really is. Now we enter the danger zone. 1:30 p.m. to 5:00 p.m. Specifically, the text highlights 3:00 p.m.
The dreaded afternoon slump.
Let's explain that term. What is a slump?
A slump is a sudden fall or decline. In sports, if a player suddenly stops scoring goals, we say they're in a slump. In the daily routine, the afternoon slump is that biological crash that happens to a lot of people around 3:00 p.m. Your body temperature drops a little, your digestion is using up energy, and you just feel heavy.
Sleepy, unfocused.
Exactly. Emily says she wants to close her eyes for just a minute. We've all been there.
Oh, absolutely. So how do they fight the slump? What are their strategies?
Paul uses a combination of movement and a stimulant. He stands up and stretches, getting the blood flowing again. He gets water. And he eats a small piece of dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate. That is a very specific choice.
It is. Dark chocolate has less sugar than milk chocolate and has a little bit of caffeine. So it's a very precise, calculated energy boost.
What about Emily?
Emily eats an apple. And she specifically mentions the crunch.
The crunch.
That's a sensory word. The sound, the feeling of biting into something hard. That physical sensation can actually help wake you up. It alerts the senses. And of course, the natural sugar in the fruit gives a boost without the crash you might get later from candy.
So they survive the slump. They push through. 3.30 to 5.00 is described as finishing tasks. But there's one crucial habit mentioned right at the end of the workday that I think is just brilliant.
The to-do list for tomorrow.
Yes. Paul makes a list of what he needs to do the next day. Why is that so important?
It's a psychological closing ceremony for the workday. By writing down what needs to be done tomorrow, Paul is basically telling his brain, you don't need to worry about this tonight. It's on paper. It is safe.
It allows him to actually disconnect.
Exactly.
And then 5:30 p.m., freedom. The text describes the feeling simply as happiness.
The best feeling in the world. But the day isn't over, not by a long shot. In fact, for many people, the second shift is just beginning.
That's a good way to put it. This leads us to the winding down section. 5:00 p.m. to 11:00 p.m.
Right.
Let's look at the transition. 5:00 to 6:30 p.m. Most people, myself included, have an instinct to just go home and collapse on the sofa. But Paul goes to the gym immediately. He doesn't even go home first.
And that is a very strategic decision. He knows the law of inertia.
Okay.
If an object is at rest, it stays at rest. He knows that if he goes home and sits on that sofa, he is never getting up again. So he goes straight to the gym while he still has momentum.
That makes so much sense. He runs on the treadmill for 30 minutes. He says it's hard work, but he feels great after it.
That's the endorphin kick. He's literally burning off the stress of the day.
Emily, meanwhile, does the domestic work. She runs errands. She goes to the supermarket for milk, bread, vegetables.
And surprisingly, she seems to enjoy it. She says she likes looking at different foods.
I can relate to that. It's kind of like retail therapy on a micro scale, just wandering the aisles, looking at the possibilities for dinner.
But Paul has a note here about shopping. He says he only shops on Saturdays.
Because he buys in bulk.
Right, bulk buying large quantities at once.
Again, it's all about efficiency. Paul does not want to waste time standing in a line at a grocery store on a Tuesday night.
He systematizes it. Emily takes it day by day.
So Emily walks home. It's 6:30 p.m. They're back in their castles. It's time for dinner and chores.
Paul's arrival ritual is very specific. He takes off his shoes and puts on comfortable slippers.
Slippers, those soft indoor shoes, that is the universal symbol for I am not going back outside.
It is. It's the signal to the brain that outside mode is off and home mode is now on. And then he starts cooking. He views cooking as a hobby.
This is interesting because for so many people, cooking is a chore. It's just more work you have to do at the end of the day.
But for Paul, it's creative. It's a form of relaxation.
Whereas Emily wants fast and yummy. She makes pasta with tomato sauce. She wants the result, not necessarily the process.
Which is also very relatable.
For sure. Now look at their eating habits. 7:30 a.m. Paul sits down at the table, and he has a very strict rule.
No phone, no TV, just thinking about the day.
That is incredibly rare in this day and age. I mean, most of us are dual screening. We're eating and scrolling at the same time.
We call that doom scrolling, or just distracted eating. Paul is practicing mindful eating. He's actually tasting his food and processing his thoughts.
He's digesting his day, mentally and physically.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
Emily listens to light music while she eats. That's a nice middle ground, I think. It sets a mood without demanding all your attention.
It does. But then, the meal ends, and we all face the unpopular task.
Washing the dishes.
Nobody likes it. But Emily has a very specific motivation here. She cleans the plates, the spoons, and the pans because she likes a clean kitchen before sleep.
This is a concept we often call doing a favor for your future self.
Yes.
Emily knows that morning Emily is going to be stressed and tired and will not want to face a messy kitchen, so she does the work now to make the morning easier. It's a very mature habit.
It really is.
8:00 p.m. to 10:00 p.m. The kitchen is clean. The work is done. This is me time.
Me time. That is such a crucial phrase. It means time that is strictly for your own enjoyment. Not for your boss, not for your family, but for you.
Paul spends his me time playing the guitar. He does it for 40 minutes. And he uses this beautiful phrase, "It makes my heart happy."
That is so lovely. It isn't just, I like it. It touches him on an emotional level. It's a passion project. He also mentions watching a documentary occasionally, but he limits his TV time.
Emily is a reader. She sits on a soft sofa with a blanket.
Notice those adjectives of comfort again. Soft, warm. She's building a nest for herself.
She is. And she describes reading as traveling to a new world.
That's the magic of fiction, isn't it? Escapism.
And she also connects with people. She calls her mom or her friends to laugh and stay connected.
So Paul winds down with his skill playing the guitar, and Emily winds down with story reading books and connection to those phone calls.
Finally, the day ends. 10:00 p.m. to 11:00 p.m. The bedtime routine.
And here we see a very modern struggle. The screen. The phone.
Paul practices what the text calls a digital detox.
Detox is short for detoxification, removing the poison. In this case, the poison is the blue light and the constant stimulation of the smartphone. He puts his phone in the kitchen at 10:00 p.m.
And the rule is no phone in the bedroom.
That is the gold standard of sleep hygiene. Everyone recommends it. If the phone is next to the bed, you will look at it. If it's in the kitchen, you're free.
And Emily agrees this is a smart rule, though the text doesn't explicitly say if she follows it as strictly as Paul does.
Interesting.
Then comes the hygiene part. Emily takes a warm shower at 10:15. She says the warm water makes her feel sleepy.
And there's science behind that. It raises your body temperature, and then when you get out into the cooler air, your temperature drops, and that drop signals to your body that it's time to sleep.
Oh, wow. And we cannot ignore the fashion, the pajamas.
No, we cannot. This is my favorite detail in the whole time.
I, too. Paul, the serious, structured, type A executive, wears pajamas with little dogs on them.
It's so humanizing.
Yeah.
It shows that inside every structured adult is a kid who just wants to wear dog pajamas.
It's fantastic. And Emily wears pajamas with stars.
Very fitting for her somehow.
So they climb into bed. The text emphasizes the sensation of soft and warm. They turn off the lamp. But Paul has one last ritual at 11:00 p.m.
He closes his eyes, and he thinks of 3 things he is grateful for.
Gratitude practice.
It is a really powerful psychological tool. If you go to sleep thinking about your problems, your brain just spins on them all night. But if you force your brain to look for positives, the coffee was good, the sun was shining, I finally finished that report, it calms the entire nervous system.
And then sleep. The cycle is complete.
From the jarring sound of the alarm to that silent moment of gratitude, what a journey.
It really is. We've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the prepositions of buses, the adjectives of shirts, the philosophy of lunch.
We have. And for you, the listener, I hope you can see that these aren't just words on a page. These are the tools you need to narrate your own life.
So before we go, we have a challenge for you. The source material asks some direct questions, and we want you to think about them.
You can answer them in your head, you can write them down, or you can even try recording yourself speaking. But try to use some of the vocabulary we've discussed today.
Question 1. Are you an Emily or are you a Paul? Are you dragging yourself out of bed or are you opening the window to greet the day?
Question 2. What is your commute like? Do you see the seasons change like Paul, or are you zoning out on the number 42 bus like Emily? And remember to use the correct preposition. Are you in the car or on the train?
And question 3. What is your wind-down routine? Do you have a digital detox? Do you have a hobby that makes your heart happy?
Taking just 10 minutes to describe these things in English will do wonders for your fluency. It really will.
As Paul and Emily said in the text, stay positive and keep learning.
Absolutely. It's a process, just like the daily routine itself, one day at a time.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the everyday. It's been a real pleasure unpacking the hidden complexity of the daily grind with you.
It really has. I don't think I'll ever look at a cup of coffee the same way again.
Me neither. Here's a final thought for you to carry into your day. Paul ends his day with gratitude, and Emily starts hers with water. One feeds the mind, the other feeds the body. What is one small habit, just one reason that you could add to your routine tomorrow to make your day just 1% better?
A great question to end on.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Goodbye.